Welcome to the Old Mac Gang Podcast, or OMG, the show where longtime Mac and Apple users share practical tips, apps, and stories for age-seasoned users. I'm Marty Gensius, and for the first time I can say this, I'm a 60-year-old Mac user, podcaster, and academic, joined by Chris, Peter, Charlie, and Gary, our panel of classic Apple users. Today we're going to talk about grocery and restaurant delivery apps, and we're going to try and make them simple for you. Whether you've used them a long time or whether you've never used them, we'll try and explain the process and give you some ideas around grocery and also food. If you want to have restaurants send you food, you got to pay for it, but they'll still send you food. And we'll talk about ways in which you can use your Macs, your iPads, and iPhones to simplify grocery shopping and enjoy nice restaurant meals at home. In fact, I did that tonight for my birthday. I ordered out some really amazing Asian food. And that all came to my door. Didn't have to cook it, had to clean up after a little bit for it. But there wasn't pots and pans and all that sort of stuff. So it gives you an opportunity to stay independent with some of these modern delivery services. Let's do some introductions, and we'll start with Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris. I'm a 78-year-old retiree here in Tucson, Arizona. Been a member of the Tucson Mac user group for a couple of years now, and I've been around the Mac since 1984. Worked with Apple user groups, and then had a chance to work at Apple for a while, and then did some university IT. And now I'm retired and playing with all of my Apple toys. I've got an M1 Mac Mini, iPhone 16 Pro Max, Apple Watch Series 11, and 9th generation iPad, and all the Apple services that go along with.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm a 73-year-old Apple enthusiast from Bay Village, Ohio. I have a wide variety of Apple gear and accessories, and I'm always eager to learn about all things Apple, and in fact, all things that involve computers and gadgets. It's fun to share what I've already learned, especially as I'm learning more, and there's no better place than to learn than right here with this old Mac gang and our audience.
Thank you. I'm Charlie Lindahl. I'm in Houston, Texas. I'm 70 years old, and last year I retired from Texas A&M. I was there for 23 years in IT, and I've been around the Macs. I've been around the Apple stuff since 83, 84, and have continued to be a fan. I currently have an M1 Pro laptop and a Series 10 watch, which I love, and I also just got AirPod 3s that I love. Their integration is unbelievable, and I'm looking forward to trying out the translation features. So anyway, great to be in this group, and we always have a lot of fun and learn some new stuff, and thanks for running this, Marty, and by the way, happy birthday.
Thanks, Charlie. Gary?
Gary, I'm 88 years old. Happy birthday, Marty. I'm on the east side of Cleveland and primarily use a Mac Mini with a couple monitors. As we were doing introduction, I think the best thing that I've found and would share is to find, and I found Marty and Peter, to find somebody who would be like a teacher to be there to kind of guide you as you move into this senior position, because I find the Mac, which I'm using primarily, the Mini, is a very useful tool. And even tonight with our topic, I'm learning new things. So, Marty?
Yeah, it's great to have everybody together. Bob is still feeling under the weather. And so he said he just didn't have the voice to be able to do it tonight after running a meeting last night and some other things that he did on the weekend. So we've got a almost full pool here, which is really kind of cool. Anything new this week that you want to share that might be relevant to our listeners? I kind of come up dry, but you might have some things, your group might have some things to think about.
Well, I understand, and Chris will know more about this. I think there's a Vision Pro software update coming soon, if it hasn't already happened. And for those of us that have friends that have Vision Pros, and I've got a few, and now that I have this lab, I can go down there and play with it. Anyway, anybody know anything about that upgrade that's supposed to help with gestures and so forth?
Yeah, I've got a Vision Pro M2 and a Vision Pro M5, and with the podcast, we talk a lot about Vision Pro and VR AR development. They are in their third beta. It just came out yesterday, so it was 26 to beta 3, and there have been some improvements with it. Primarily, there have been some issues with the developer strap that developers can put it in, and they fixed that apparently in this latest version. The tracking has definitely gotten better on 26.2, even before we've gotten to the third beta. It's a noticeable difference. Most people that are using the headset are not running the alpha or not running the release candidate. They're running the betas, and they're not having a lot of problems running the betas. So yeah, it's really pretty cool, and a lot of fun and enjoyable to work with. I don't know. Is there any other bits of news? Charlie has brought up the rumors about what's going to happen to Tim Cook and what the process is with Tim Cook and how we might be seeing something maybe at the beginning of the new year in terms of his retirement or his ascension to a different position. That's kind of roaming around the news. I really can't think of much more in terms of things that might be tied in with our group and our listeners.
What's the quick backstory on Tim Cook? I was a bit late to the table.
Peter, you want to take Peter or Charlie? Why don't we start with
Well-
Charlie and then go to Peter? Yeah. Okay. Charlie?
Okay, well, basically, I heard rumblings back the end of summer that Tim Cook would be leaving as the CEO of Apple. And since then, there have been a number of articles recently in the last week, including at Mac Rumors, and I think we posted that in the notes from last week. You might want to add that back in, Marty. The speculation is wild about who's going to take over his position and what he's going to be doing after. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Peter?
Yeah, well, one of the great Apple whisperers, Mark Gurman, who writes a newsletter called Power On, has been talking about people leaving Apple, particularly in the AI division, but a lot of other divisions, people aging out. It's got a pretty old management. And he's also, alongside all of those articles, which started back early summer, maybe last spring even, also talked about who are the horses in the running to replace Tim Cook someday, although he never made it was any time near. Recently, about the same time Charlie talked about what he read in the couple places he put in our show notes, there was a leak, and it's known to be from high up in Apple to the Financial Times. And a lot of people have speculated that Apple wants to, sort of put their toe in the water about Tim Cook won't be here forever. There is a succession plan, and get it into the market so it's not a surprise whenever it happens. I mean, there are some reasons that it probably any move isn't going to happen until spring, and certain moves can require votes for and to be on the ballot for Apple stockholders, which is I think in March. So I mean, there's some timelines in there for what can happen when, but clearly succession is a plan. And the front runner is a guy named John Turnus, who's the head of hardware.
Yeah, a lot of people were
what I
saying
heard was-
Craig Federini, but Federini is doing really well at what he does, and I don't think that's going to include running the company. Chris?
Yeah, the most coherent thing that I've heard is that Tim moves up to chairman, and John Turnus, the head of hardware that Peter just mentioned, moves into the CEO role. Because there's a lot that Tim's doing, particularly in the current environment, and I can't see that really ending anytime soon. He does turn 65 this year, so and John's been the one, because he's only 50 years old, so he's got a lot of age room in front of him, as opposed to some of the other players who aren't that much younger than Tim. And I'm dropping his name, but anyway, yeah. So that's what I've heard anyway.
Peter?
Peter?
Yeah, one other thing is the big vacancy that seems to me to be significant is that of chief operating officer. So Jeff Williams' last day was last Friday. He's the guy who replaced Tim. Tim's the guy who set up, Apple's supply chain, and Jeff was his wingman or whatever, and ran it very well after Tim ascended. And who's going to take that job, I think, is probably going to be a very important thing, given tariffs and supply chain issues and all that kind of stuff.
Actually, that position's been filled. I mean, his name is Sahib.
Oh, has it? Okay.
And he's been working as John's number 2, I think, for years. So that's already in the works. But yeah, Jeff Williams, super guy, did the watch, did a bunch of stuff, and retired pretty suddenly this year. So people are hoping he's okay. But yeah, he's been a major player. But again, he's like Tim's age. He's like 64, I think. So.
Okay, let's get to food. Our topic tonight is about delivery apps and also delivery kind of services that are online. And that's for grocery delivery, or if you just want a meal from your favorite restaurant. So, why do apps and delivery apps work well for seniors? Primarily convenience. You can order groceries or meals from home. Saves problems in terms of traveling and, all of that. Safety, you can avoid traffic. Winter weather is another reason, particularly in the northern states where Peter and Gary and I are. Winter weather sets upon, and this is an opportunity for me to do my grocery shopping if I want to and have it delivered in ways. It's predictable. If you use and have used particularly restaurant apps, and I guess even grocery apps, because I've done some of that, you can easily reorder items. And that's true if you go to your favorite restaurant or go online to your favorite restaurant, and there is your favorite thing that you get there all the time. Guess what? When you go into the app again, that'll be the first thing that comes up. And it makes it easier to press and reorder without searching. So it kind of helps the problems with physical needs that a lot of folks have. And doing it just gets your strength and it gets you a little bit more stronger in tech and tech ability. I'm going to just run through a few sites, and these links will be in the show notes. Instacart. Has anybody used Instacart in this group? Just shout out. I haven't used it too much because I have a local grocer that they have their own website for ordering food, and they will do delivery, but they'll also do pickup. And this became really possible for me during COVID. And I think that's where a lot of people got introduced to grocery delivery apps, and or you'd pull up into a space, you'd call in and say, here's where, here's my name, and I'm in space number 2, and they would roll the stuff out and put it in your trunk, no contact. Walmart also does store and food. They have department, but they also have many of them have all of them. I think now have food as part of it, so you can order through Walmart, and they will either allow you to pick it up or deliver. Amazon also does this. They now have opportunities to buy things online with that. And then your local stores, you can Ship It is an app that when we get into things like Giant Eagle, Meijer, that's locally for me, Giant Eagle, and Meijer, and also Target. You can get that and run it through the Ship It app. And then, so those are ways to kind of get food from grocers. We'll talk more about that. And then there are apps that are related to dining and getting food from your favorite local restaurants. And if you're watching the video of this, you'll see some of my favorite local restaurants. And again, this is DoorDash, probably one of the more popular ones. And if I pick a restaurant that I've been to the last time, it will tell me what I got in my last order, and I can just click on that and get an order again. I haven't used Uber Eats. My son uses Uber Eats more than he uses DoorDash. And I'm not exactly sure why. At one time, I think he actually, between jobs, worked for DoorDash. Or, he was one of the DoorDash drivers that would pick food up from different restaurants and such. So he now is, he says his favorite restaurants are connected to Uber Eats, and there are differences on what services you'll get. Grubhub is another one, and Grubhub can give you food delivery just like the others. I have found that it doesn't contain the restaurants that I have an interest in going to. And then I want somebody from our group, I think it was Charlie maybe that put this in, community supported agriculture. Which one of you put that in as an option?
I put that in, and I can talk about it when we get to the point.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. It's a fascinating concept. It's been around for at least 10 years that I've seen, and it's national. And it's meant to be a way where you can subscribe to a CSA distribution point in your locally, meaning like, and basically the idea is we're supporting local farmers, which is something I'm very keen on. And when farmers are part of CSA, they say what kind of, what they produce, right? Whether it's vegetables or fruits or whatever it is. And they put it out as a catalog, and then people can order in bulk, mind you, and the farmers get the benefit of the dollars that come in for that. Okay, so they don't have to go to a grocery store. They don't have to worry about packaging. They just throw it in a box and put it into the CSA system. And then I, as a subscriber, and I was subscribed for a little while. There was one that was very convenient to me that was like 10 minutes from my house at a local church. Unfortunately, I stopped doing that, so I stopped doing that. But it's designed for people that buy bulk like once a month or every other week, and you get large amounts of whatever it is you want. Okay. But it's a way of supporting local farmers, and it's a way of getting very, very fresh food. And the one that I was getting fed from was a totally organic farm, so it was very, very good material stuff. And I don't know if you've ever had an organic tomato versus the stuff you get in the grocery store, but it's a totally different taste.
Yeah.
Have you all experienced that? That if you get fresh
Yeah.
stuff from directly out of the fields, that it seems to taste a lot different, and I think
So
better personally.
so this is like farm to table in a sense, direct.
It's farm to table.
There's no middle person. They don't have to sell all their stuff to a broker who then
That's
ships it
correct.
out. And yeah, okay. So there's the
That's
advantage
correct.
there.
And I put the Wikipedia in the Wikipedia
Yeah,
link in our show notes.
yeah. And I've
You
got
want to
that
look at
set
it?
up. Yeah, I do have that as part of the links that for the viewers. You
Yeah.
can also see it, but you'll also be able to get the Wikipedia link in our show notes for that. So
Just
that's
look
pretty
up
cool.
community supporting agriculture and you'll find it. But I think it's fantastic, and I'm going to go back and revive that for myself.
Yeah. So the
It's not
process
direct.
for
It's
doing,
not direct. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not directly having to do with delivery, but it has to do with groceries. So anyway, okay.
yeah, yeah. So one of the things that the suggestions, the steps, and these will be in the show notes. Simply, first choose your service. Are you going to use DoorDash? Are you going to use Instacart? If you're looking for groceries, in my case, Acme is my local grocer in Northeast Ohio, and they have a variety of stores in my community in Portage County. And they have a website, and I can go in and go down the list and just check stuff that I want and get it all set up that way. But you choose your service, then you need to prepare your device to make sure everything's updated and will work. Set up a delivery space. Make sure your porch or entryway has a place where people can leave the information and, if needed, leave at the door. And make sure the restaurant or grocery has your right phone number when you set up the service, whether it's DoorDash or Grubhub, or for the restaurant services, part of what goes into that setup is your phone number so they can also contact you if necessary. And I've had some things show up that I've had put an order in, and I've gotten a call from the restaurant because my number's there to say, "Hey, we're not sure what you mean here. Do you want this or not want this?" So it's important to have that kind of connection, and then engage with them and get an opportunity to use the app. I've kind of used a lot of this. Well, let's get into the first question. If have you or someone you known used a grocery or restaurant delivery recently? What worked well or what was frustrating? And we go to Chris.
Okay, first of all, Marty, let me correct something I said. The Jeff Williams is going to be succeeded by a guy named Sabi Khan. He has been Senior Vice President of Operations since 2019. And I put two links in the show notes about the succession thing for Mac Rumors. So people
Okay.
can probably get a clearer picture from that. But
Yeah.
yeah. Now, going back to tonight's material, this is one of these episodes that I love because I learn more than I'm going to bring. But, my wife and I haven't really used these services yet. And I say yet in bold italics because, that day may not be that far away. And it's only a question of time. A good friend of mine, of ours, actually here in Tucson, he got into picking up his groceries after his wife ordered them during the pandemic. And he shared with me the thing that like blew his mind. And this was a guy who was a very successful gastroenterologist here in Tucson, and then he went into medical technology and did very well with that as well. And he said, I just had no idea how much time I spent walking up and down the aisles in the grocery store. And they can do it way faster than I can. And it really, the whole different approach about that. And so this is something I think we want to, Sue and I want to explore. And I've seen, I don't know if you guys have seen, but in our Kroger affiliate here that's called Fry's, I've seen that they have a huge cart, and it will have like about 9 bins, three across and 3 high. So, and this is 9 different customers, and so they'll go to the dairy and they're pulling different milks out for each person, And the thing, when they go to the produce, if people didn't know this already, they pick the best stuff. So you really have nothing to worry about that. Just the problem is developing a list. And I know Peter and others are going to talk more about this. So, but this is definitely something to keep in mind and can be very convenient. On the restaurant side, we kind of live about 20 minutes away from most of the restaurants. So if it's warm food, we probably wouldn't have it delivered. Once in a while, we'll go pick stuff up, but especially now that we're, since the end of the pandemic, we like to be back in the restaurants and stuff. Although, again, and as the virus season, flu season starts coming on, sometimes it makes sense to stay home. So, but lots of good possibilities here. Peter?
Sure. Well, my simple answer to this question is no. I haven't ordered anything for delivery. And I was thinking of our family as an outlier, but maybe not, as I listened to what some other people have said. I can only recall that we've had one restaurant delivery in the last 25 years, and it might be even longer than that. It was a promotional deal from Grubhub about 3 or 4 years ago. It's our experience and preference to like food in the restaurant. I mean, and I was a cook in restaurants all through college, and I just strongly feel that out of the oven and onto the table is what makes most restaurant food taste the best. So when I do order stuff from restaurants, I go get it. I guess that's an acceptable middle ground. I do order online. I don't use any apps. All the restaurants I've gone to have websites. Most of them work through a web app called Toast or something like that. Maybe there's 2 web apps out there. I mean, they look remarkably similar, and they do remember past orders and all kinds of things like that. We do groceries for pickup. And again, we get interaction between the people shopping for us. If something's missing or something is, they take pictures, they send them to us or whatever. I'm not sure if that has to do with the fact that I think we tip, and I don't know that most people who pick up tip, but I think the shoppers are very eager to see us, and they seem to know us, and they seem to know our preferences and all that kind of stuff. Originally, our grocery stores used Instacart, but both of the ones we go to have switched over to their own web-based system. So we don't, to the extent that we do something, we don't use apps.
Okay. Charlie.
I don't use it very often. Hold on, let me get my notes here. Okay. I don't use delivery stuff very often. Most of my grocery stores are within a couple of 10, 15 minutes of me, but it is handy for doing takeout and such. The other mention is that my local grocery stores, particularly Kroger and Aldi, also offer, and Costco, all offer delivery services as well. And I mentioned the CSA earlier. The other thing that's kind of handy about the apps is a lot of them, at least the Kroger ones, and I think even DoorDash, you can actually look at real time and see when they're coming to your house, like within a couple of minutes, almost real time. And that's kind of a neat feature, because then you know when to open the door and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my comment on that.
Gary, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. I know Peter, and I'll share back some of my time with Peter, because I know he goes to the same Heinen's, not the same store as I do, but I'm on the east side of Cleveland, and Peter's on the far west side, and Marty, of course, in Akron. My Heinen's store, and I live alone, and my food consumption is minor. And there's a lot of prepared takeout food. So for today's show, I went on, and I would use the Heinen's store app. And because I have a Heinen's card that I use every time I shop, when I went online today, because I have an account, it showed, as Marty mentioned too, what I purchased. And it would be very easy to buy the same item again. And my understanding, Peter, is that Heinen's and maybe some of the other stores, when they use Instacart, I could ask, uh, it wasn't working. So their own employees now do the picking. And I think there must be a delivery service that is something other than Heinen's, but you pull into a number, just call, and it's right there in your cart. So I can see that being very convenient. Part of me, though, wants to go in the store, and I don't buy very much.
No.
And then I was doing some research on this topic with my friends at ChatGPT, and I'm interested in trying a restaurant maybe, although I can take out food, restaurant quality food at this Hayden supermarket because it's prepared there. So I'm going to try and go to the restaurant. Assuming the restaurant, like we said, Peter, has the something online, and just go directly. And then, because I noticed when I went to Cyan Cafe, which is a wonderful Asian restaurant downtown Cleveland, there were a lot of DoorDash and somebody doing the pickups, Uber Eats. So you could go there, you know what the food is, and in that case, it would probably be delivered like a pizza warm. So this show has gotten me interested to give it a try, Marty.
Yeah, thanks. In fact, tonight, one of the restaurants that I used, or that I would like to use, has my favorite dish now. It's sort of the dish I'm interested in, but they don't do delivery. They don't. So, but they do pickup, and you have to go through Toast to order everything that you want. And Toast is the app that you go through in order to order food from that restaurant. You go to their website, you can go on the order online thing, and it takes you into the whole selection piece, and then you pay for it through the Toast app in order to get it. I would like to say that we dangerously got into too much door dashing. My wife doesn't find any joy in cooking. And I basically have a hard time cooking for any group smaller than 6. We started getting into the what do you want to get tonight? Well, what did we have last in terms of DoorDash? And frankly, I'll be honest with you, the pricing is a little higher because even though if you get what they call a pass or a Dasher pass, that takes some of the bite out of it, but still, another Asian restaurant that I use in the area, I can order through DoorDash, but I know the price differences if I just call them up and say I'll be by to pick this up. And so I cut off that cost. It means, I'm driving 3-4 miles to get what I need to get and turning around and coming back. And after a long day, I don't want to do that. So we've kind of cut back on DoorDash. We're trying to do more planning outside of, what's in our freezer so we can kind of cook things through that process. But, it's a small family of 2, my wife and myself, and that always becomes a challenge in terms of energy to cook for energy to cook for a small group. So we did do a lot of food and grocery ordering during the pandemic, and that worked out really well for us. One note that you need to be aware of, at least the last time I used it, you can select certain items, and then there is a option for if you don't have this item, this particular brand, I don't want it, no substitutions. And what happened was I would select things and get maybe I don't know, 4/5 of what I actually ordered because of the no substitutions option that I wanted. Um, and if I turn that off, I still might not get everything that I put on the order. Occasionally, I would get phone calls saying, this. Is it okay for us to switch it with this?" And they would ask that before they did it, and that was very nice and very good. It was really, and every time I drive up to a grocery now, I see those lanes for automatic pickup, and I keep saying, why don't we just use that? We need to use that more. But I do like to roam the aisles and do like to see what's there. But the converse is I generally then wind up buying more. The thing about selecting things on a list that's online is I'm a little more scrupulous on that than if it's, let's wander and see what's at the end of the aisles that will make my mouth water and make me want to buy it, and then it'll hang around for a long time. So there's some pluses and minuses with that. Next question: do you prefer grocery delivery or restaurant delivery? How do you stay motivated to use these apps, if you stay motivated to use these apps? Chris?
So, first of all, I want to tag on to last time that almost all the restaurants we go to here in Tucson have DoorDash or takeout, and it's pretty prominent. You see it on the way in. So, I would be more inclined to probably pick stuff up and bring it home. Used to do that a lot more with pizza, for instance, from Italian restaurants. Now we've got the pizza, a whole different setup. And one of the things that's very popular here in Tucson I think it's Papa Joseph's or Papa John's or something. It's partially baked pizza that you take home and finish baking it, and then it's hot on the table type of thing. They make some pretty good pizzas too. We haven't needed deliveries here yet. I mean, I'm 78, my wife's 77. And living in Tucson, we don't have the winter weather limitations. It gets pretty hot in the summer, of course, as everybody's heard. But this doesn't necessarily necessitate deliveries, although I suppose it could in the future. The one thing I would say here is Marty's put together some really good show notes on this and a lot of do's and don'ts and things to remember. For instance, like he was just saying, I didn't realize there were substitution questions. That never occurred to me in online ordering. So, if you're new to this, you might want to really take a good read through those. And the other point is make sure your payments option is set up front and it's working. An example from today, I stopped at the Walmart pharmacy to get a flu shot, and she said, well, let's do this through the Walmart app. And I said, well, okay, I think I've got it set up. And it recognized my username. It even let me do a passkey, but it didn't like my password. So we had to go back to the do the paperwork type of thing. So lesson learned, I've got that fixed already. And the other thing is Walmart doesn't take Apple Pay because they've got their own pay, their Walmart Pay. I'm not too crazy about using that, but we might get that. And of course, we've also got our Kroger chain down here called Fry's, I mentioned before. And I know they're very good at this in terms of pickup or delivery. And they, of course, would take Apple Pay. But like Marty mentions in the show notes, it's really important to have that set up because, I'll save the rest for the third question, actually, because it's more relevant to that. But we've also got a store down here called Sprouts, which is very big. It's kind of a little bit like Whole Foods, but they're very good on produce. And so we tend to shop at a variety of things. So my wife and I are both sort of foodies, so we love to do stuff like that, and we're retired, so we have that luxury of time.
Okay, Peter.
Well, yeah, I prefer. I guess I'd say I prefer grocery over restaurants. As I said before, I'm a pickup person. I'm not a bring it over to me kind of person in general. But I did realize that with regard to groceries, we do have some delivered. I mean, I didn't think about it right away, but we do get the kinds of groceries that I guess they are groceries: oatmeal, peanut butter. I mean, there's certain things that aren't as perishable as other things, we might get from Amazon or BJ's or Sam's Club delivered. And, it's almost like going to Costco or one of those places and getting a bunch of something. It's not just soap and things like that. With regard to what Charlie said before, in our area, whatever acronym he used, they call farm share here. And we have from time to time purchased farm shares. And that's also a pickup thing in our case. They don't bring it to, or our farm share didn't bring it to our house, but there was a location near here where at a certain time every week the big truck would come. And it also wasn't a thing where we picked what we wanted. It was almost like going to the farmer's market. The freshest, best stuff that they had was what you got a chunk of. And for somebody who's maybe an adventurous cook, like I know Marty is sometimes, assuming we can get 6 people to come over to his house, you say, okay, here's what we have. We have, ramps are in. That's a plant that grows around here. And let's see what we can do with those. And, or, when the tomatoes are coming in, a lot of other things like that.
So, Charlie.
I do mainly restaurant delivery because, as I said, I'm 10 or 15 minutes from my grocery store, and I know my grocery store layouts pretty well. So the other thing, but the other thing I'll mention is I help my friends and others in our community to have food delivered to others. And in particular, with this current SNAP restrictions, there are whole churches that have coordinated delivery services to people in need, which I thought was a fantastic application of delivery.
All right. Gary, do you have any comments or thoughts? Gary, microphone.
No, I shared really everything I have. I was anxious to listen to Peter, and I'm going to try a restaurant.
Yeah. Okay. For me, it's mainly restaurants. Again, my wife and I are trying to be more deliberate about cooking in the evenings when we have the space and time to do that. So we're looking at a lot of stuff that's been in our freezer that we need to get through, and that's good for us. But there are also those times where it's like, we haven't thought about this, but we're hungry. And sometimes that means let's go pick something up. Sometimes that means let's go sit at a restaurant for a little bit. And sometimes it means just have restaurants deliver it for us. I kind of like grocery shopping when I have a list. And so, I use any list for grocery shopping. And I might have mentioned that on a previous show. And Aileen and I will have our phones with that list on both of our phones because that's a function of that app. And we'll just kind of check off the stuff as we go through the store. The danger is finding all those extra things that we normally wouldn't and shouldn't buy, but we buy anyways, that we can more easily avoid if we have someone do the picking the groceries for us. So, yeah. Let's go to our last question. What advice would you give someone hesitant about trying delivery apps? Chris.
Yeah, well, we've talked a lot about the show notes, so I won't mention that again. But the thing that really was coming up for me as I was thinking about this earlier is that it would be a lot better for my wife and I to try figure this out ahead of time and try a couple of the local stores, because the different stores are going to have their own strengths and weaknesses, and find out ahead of time what works from whom and how, rather than trying to figure this all out if we're both stuck at home with a bad virus.
Yeah.
And that's hardly the time to be trying to figure it out and like, oh, the payment isn't working, it's not going through. Hell with it, I'll just drive over in the car, kind of thing. So, that's my big takeaway, that maybe we need to do some dry runs. And there's a lot of repetitive stuff like V8 and Diet Coke and milk and stuff that we get like twice a week anyway, and there's stuff like this that a lot of repetitive, real low-hanging fruit kind of grocery stuff. And then save the rest for the custom stuff. So it's definitely food for thought, and I appreciate hearing what everybody's thoughts on this tonight.
Peter.
Yeah, I think I have some good advice for someone hesitant, and that's don't start out by going big. Start with a small order, and start with mainly safe items with only one or two, I guess what I'd call risky ones. So if it was a grocery example, I'd start out with items like dried pasta, canned food, uh, milk, things like that. And maybe only one or two things that were like a fruit or a vegetable, just to see, do they pick the best stuff, or do I need to go in and do that? And from a restaurant, what I would consider a safe item is any item where if you think, oh, we brought this stuff back from the restaurant and we're going to reheat it, and you think, oh boy, I like it better reheated than I do the first time. Those are the kind of foods that I would consider safe. And if it's something like, I don't know, Caesar salad where they mix it at your table, or gosh, baked Alaska, I'm not going to order that kind of stuff, to be delivered to my house, even if they give me matches and some, I don't know what liquor they put over the top of it. I'm not going for that.
Charlie.
Online ordering can be very onerous, so you may want to tell people to look at the app before they ever try to use it. If you're ever in a hurry, you're going to go nuts trying to figure out all the ins and outs, and there is no standard on the interface for these things, so it can be very tedious and onerous. So I would highly recommend that you look at what you've got first before you ever try to use it. The other thing is I'd highly recommend calling a real person as opposed to using the app and ordering with the app, because if you can get a real person, you can explain your order and get the thing straight, and it'll be a lot faster if you can get a real person on the line. You can use the app to track it later, or do the charging and so forth. But at any rate, that's my thought. That apps are extremely awkward, and so you might want to just call and use the app as a separate thing.
Yeah. I'm going to do my piece, and Gary, go ahead.
I'd say my answer was to start small, maybe one store, one of course, and no reason to jump in big, and don't be embarrassed to ask someone for help. And then I found that the accessibility apps, the settings make it easier. Larger text, bold type, more contrast, zoom, VoiceOver, tools Apple's built in for us older adults, and make us feel less intimidated. Marty?
Before I kind of give you my tip, I had one situation where we had 14 people over for dinner. The relatives were in. And I had not really thought about dessert. And then Aileen said, well, what are you going to do about dessert? And I was like, oh, I don't want to bake anything. I don't want to run back to the store, etc. And so we have an ice cream store, I guess you'd call it. An ice cream, it's not a parlor. It's a place you pull up to get out and get your ice cream at, called Handel's here in Northeast Ohio. And Handel's has a gazillion flavors. They also have a website where I can go on and look at all the flavors they currently have. And I thought, I'm going to DoorDash like 7 pints of ice cream with different flavors. And sure enough, I paid for 7 pints of ice cream, paid it through DoorDash. It showed up at my door. We put the pints of ice cream out. The lids had what it was on it, and everybody just had kind of an post-dinner ice cream party. And that the joy of being able to do that through DoorDash, or any kind of service. This happened to be through DoorDash. was just such a convenience saver for me and a process saver for me that probably wouldn't have been able to think about. I'd be going, send somebody out to go get this stuff, and I want 2 quarts or 2 pints of this, 3 pints of that, whatever. What I would say to help people with this process is if you know how to do this, or if you don't know how to do this, ask somebody you trust to show you how to do it. And decide whether it's groceries you want to look at, or decide whether it's a restaurant app. And pick one, have somebody show you how to do it or how it's done, and then sit with them again while you do it to try some of the suggestions that Peter had. Small order first, mainly safe items, and maybe 2 what you would consider perishable or potentially risky items, or of produce where you want to make sure they're able to deliver the good stuff for you. But your first time walking through it, it's if you can have somebody who's done it before, who's willing to show you that, that's my best advice for you to get used to how to do these kinds of things. Any final comments from the group on this process? All right. We will have links in the show notes for all of this, and also some other links that will help you get to these services. So look for it. Look for the links and the information in the show notes, whether you're going to watch the video version of this or you're going to listen to it later as a podcast. You can find it in the notes section, and prepared for you to kind of click on or get the links to go to these things. Thanks to everybody on the panel. This was an interesting topic, and I just kind of thought maybe we should try to take this on. We're pre-Thanksgiving, so why not? Maybe this might be a good time to try and order something. Don't order your turkey, but I guess you could. But go ahead and try, because you forgot that cranberry sauce that my wife loves so much. Go ahead and try a few things early on that's non-perishable, and introduce yourself to ordering groceries online and having them delivered or picking them up, whatever way you want. You can email us at thepodtalknetwork@gmail.com. Visit our website at www.thepodtalk.net. Our next show is not going to be next week because I'm on the road to my in-laws, and I'm doing, Peter, large groups of people I like to cook for. My sister-in-law does the Thanksgiving meal. I do the Friday after Thanksgiving meal, and I'm doing all dim sum. So that'll be fun to play with for 14 people. So I'll be in my cooking headspace for that. So you can catch our next show 2 weeks from now on December 3rd. Want you to enjoy your holiday break. We're at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at YouTube at youtube.com/@oldmacgang is where you can find the live stream and find any of the other past shows that we've done. Catch the replay anytime. Share it with your Apple-loving friends and local Mac user groups. Thanks to our Old Mac Gang tonight, which includes Charlie, Chris, Peter, Gary, and myself. And our music is from Philip Gross, Marrakesh, courtesy of the Free Music Archive, part of the Creative Commons. Thanks for this group and for you being part of the Old Mac Gang.